Today, we're going to talk about how to alchemize your creativity and turn your life experiences into gold. We talk about the creative process often on this channel, and I think if you can learn and understand these concepts, you'll never run out of material for your art. Whether you engage in photography, traditional or digital art, music, or social media, it all applies. This is because creativity, in a nutshell, is an interpretation or even an alchemization of the human experience. Let me explain. Life imitates art, art imitates life. We've all heard the popular quote before, art imitates life. This is true in both the literal and metaphorical sense. The best works of art are often based on real experiences. Think about your favorite movies, TV shows, and songs. They all have powerful underlying reasons to why you like them so much. They're relatable. If there weren't an element or aspect that we could relate or hold on to, we wouldn't be so attracted to it. And even if the thing in the book didn't ever actually happen to us, we could still empathize and understand the emotions, the struggles, and the pains of the main character. That empathy still connects us on a deeper level. So that's one way art imitates life. But what about life imitating art? This one is a bit less obvious, but it still happens all the time. Throughout our day, there are flashes of life imitating art everywhere. It could be the advertisements and billboards for a new movie or album. It could be as simple as your friend pointing out a situation and saying, "Hey, that was just like in that one show." But in the truest sense, we see life imitating art in the way we live our lives. The inspiration we take from certain characters or stories that motivate us to live our life a certain way. Take Spider-Man or Marvel or whatever, and how the characters and stories have influenced generations, or Dragon Ball, motivating millions to train and go to the gym and get jacked or whatever. This happens all around us 24/7. So what am I trying to get you to understand here? The first step was just to illustrate how interconnected art and life are. It's so much that the phrase could be better said, life is art, art is life. Make sense? Now let's move on to utilizing this concept to further push our creativity. Passive versus active strategies. Now that we understand this concept, how do we take and apply it to our creativity to make better art? First, let's talk about the difference between passive and active strategies. A passive strategy is unconscious or subconscious. You're doing the whole art imitates life thing, but not intentionally. Rather, you're just making your music, painting your portraits, taking your pictures, floating by and not thinking about it too much. An active strategy, however, makes conscious use of this concept, meaning you see and view any and everything that happens to you as an opportunity for creativity. Both work, and there are fantastic artists that use either method, but a passive strategy doesn't require as much teaching as an active one does. Because a passive strategy is rather intuitive. It's what most of us are used to as we've grown up doing creative stuff. An active strategy, however, requires understanding the concepts we just talked about and applying it when needed to never run out of ideas. Let me give you some examples as to why an active strategy is useful. 1. It lets you slow down and not rush the creative process. A common trend within the music industry is when a new young artist puts out an amazing first album. The songs are fresh, they're real and relatable and unique in some way. But only a year later, the production is rushed to match the popularity of the artist and a second album is released. Sales-wise, the album might do okay, sometimes really good, but is often not as good as the first album. This is commonly referred to as the sophomore album. And the reason why sophomore albums aren't as good as the freshman album is because there simply isn't enough life experience to make good art out of. The first album, you just had 18 to 20 years of your life to work with. Your childhood, your adolescence, your first relationships, your first breakups, etc. Some of the most formative and interesting times of your life are squeezed out into this first album, and that's why it's so good. Whereas the sophomore album only gets like a year or two to be made, which means not enough life has happened to make something good, which is the difference. Now, if you'd been taking an active approach to your creativity, you'd understand this. You know you need more time to create new material, you'd slow down the process intentionally, despite the labels pressuring you, and you'd wait for life to let the art happen. And obviously, I don't know the music industry, but it sounds complicated and might mean you getting dropped by your label. So I get it, but we're talking about this in the context of making better stuff. It's more ideal to give it more time, but some artists can't, they're under certain circumstances, I get it. That was just an example of where it'd be better to apply an active strategy to the creative process, not rushing it because we have the bigger context and understanding of how this whole process works. Second example, everything is material. This is a common phrasing for many writers. Whether life is good or whether life is bad, everything is material. Maybe you've just accomplished a really big goal you've been working towards for many years. you can use that process and experience to write a story out of. Or maybe you've just gone through a breakup or a hard time. You can use those feelings, emotions, and experiences to write a song, book, whatever. And no matter what the life experience is, it can be used as fuel for your creativity. And that's what's so powerful. That's what we mean by alchemizing your creativity. It means viewing and seeing the events and things that happen in our lives as opportunities. Heck, they don't even have to be your stories. They could be things you see other people doing or observing in the world. They could be stories you've heard of other people going through. And the point is, an active strategy allows you to consciously make use of this in your life. It benefits our psyche too as a positive reframe because you can take any bad experience and think of it as like, hey, it's material. And then you can use it to make something with, and the art will be better in a sense because it has more real life things to attach onto. Make sense? Let's move on. The bigger picture. Let's talk about the bigger picture. Now that we know the relationship between art and life and have gone through some examples of this process, how do we take and apply it to our own creativity? First, you gotta pick your medium. Whether it's music, art, or photography, figure out what is the medium for your creativity. For me, it's not only photography, but also writing, YouTube videos, etc. Creating books, prints, talking about it, all these things are outlets for my quote-unquote alchemy. Second, start working with what you have. Instead of looking forward to getting new life experiences, just start with working with what you have. Each of us has a unique inner story and collection of life experiences that we've built up over the years. So we don't need to go out and get searching and start making new memories. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But for now, just think about some of the stories you can already tell right now. Maybe start with your own story or other stories that have inspired you. You can also take a look at other artists and see how they've done it in their own creativity. For example, my photography zine, The Sinking Sun, was built out of my fascination for sunsets. I'd often go on walks in my daily life during golden hour, take pictures of a variety of skies, and felt motivated and compelled to make something out of them. So I built a book that not only showcased the beauty of these sunsets, but tried to explore why these scenes move us and connect us. Your reason or motivation for creating something can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. Third, approach new experiences with an active approach. Now that you've made something and have started the creative cycle, we can start looking forward. Of course, don't stop spending time creating about the past. There's an endless amount of source material there. But now it's time to change our perspective on the world and look at future experiences a little differently. Start looking at new choices and decisions in life as a filter to create more and better art. What do I mean by this? I mean that to truly start turning our life experiences into gold, we need to view the literal life choices we make as opportunities for better work. I do this by asking myself a simple question. What will make for a better story? Or photo, video, music, art, whatever it is you do. And this question usually forces me to make different decisions in life. For example, in my recent trip to Japan and even Cambodia, I had multiple occasions where I questioned whether I should go or not. Most of me is down, but there is a small bit of doubt inside, and my anxiety gives me cold feet. In those moments, I remind myself of all the positives that can come from going on this trip. This might be hard, this might go wrong, but think of all the experiences, memories, photos you'll have when you come back. And then think of the different things you'll be able to do with them. The books you can make, the stories you can tell, the prints you can put up. Reminding myself of that makes it easier to take forward action to have these life experiences in the first place, so I can come back and alchemize them into creative gold. Does that make sense? That's the final step. Start living forward with the intent in mind that overcoming challenges, getting out of your comfort zone, and touching grass and living more will make your art better. If you don't do art specifically, treat it as a self-improvement thing. It all applies. This is a big thing to overcome because many artists like staying at home. I can relate. But trust me, it will pay off. Also, don't take this too far in the other direction and start doing dumb stuff. This is not an excuse to create relationship dramas or bad financial decisions just to make a better story. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the journey, the adventure, and even just the simple life moments. Okay, so I hope this made sense and I hope you got something good from it. If you want to help support my future trips, the link to my website is down below. You can also support me by grabbing a copy of The Sinking Sun, my first photography zine. And if you just want to build a solid foundation with photography, go check out Photography Essentials. It's free. Thanks as always for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.